Welcome back. And of course, a new focus now here on Morning Live, speaking to the premiers of the various provinces to expand on their state of the province addresses that have now all been done. Now, the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has promised to wage war on crime and on unemployment. Lesufi made the promise while delivering his second and final state of the province address last month. Now, Lesufi says that no corner of a township, informal settlement, the CBD or hostels will go unpoliced. The Premier also highlighted that billions of rands have been attracted to the province, which have also led to thousands of jobs. Now, Gauteng is South Africa's richest province that contributes nearly 40% to the national GDP. And Lesufi says that the province's economy has remained resilient and it's bounced back with some 449,000 jobs, despite the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact that it had on employment. Now, the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi joins me now here in studio to discuss the state of the Gauteng province. Thanks so much for coming through, Premier.
Thank you so much, Sakina. Thanks for inviting me.
You sounded like a rich uncle delivering that state of the province address. When I listened to Minister Enoch Godongwana and I listened to you, I almost felt as though I was listening to two speeches happening in different countries.
Well, because we're quite aware that we're going to go through bumpy rides. So we strengthen our revenue connection to ensure that our revenue base is broadened. In the last just financial year, we collected almost 32 billion. During the budget speech, the MEC responsible for finance indicated that we'll increase that to almost 90 billion rands. So it's an indication that we've strengthened the revenue. We're not just spending, but there is a need for us to ensure that our revenue businesses enhance, especially casinos. We've got so many online casinos, so we're taking advantage of that boom so that we can get whatever that is due. We are also taking advantage of our licensing and the new vehicles that are registered in our province. So we are taking advantage of that, as well as the services that are paid at our hospitals and the fines and other interests that we pay normally when we bank our money. So it's not that I'm an uncle, but we are trying to manage our resources well. And the Auditor General have just confirmed that in terms of the clean audits that we've received as Gauteng.
So let's touch on some of the points that you highlight there, the new vehicle registration numbers. What necessitates that?
Well, it's part of our broader crime prevention strategy. Sakina, 80, if not 85% of all crimes in Gauteng, especially violent crimes, a motor vehicle is involved. Either as a getaway car, that car itself is either hijacked or stolen, or people put fake number plates. You can't track the owner of that particular car because it's not properly registered. You can't fight crime if you still have that kind of situation. Check criminals when they either hijack you, mark you, or do whatever. If you take the registration number of that particular car, 90% chances that that car is not properly registered. So we need to strengthen that regime. It's a very important regime to fight crime. So you need to strengthen it and ensure that the vehicle that is registered under the name of the owner. It can be tracked, and it can be protected when it tries to move over our borders to go to other countries, because it's a fact that some of our cars we find themselves in the neighboring border. So the reason why I want to change that is to protect and prevent those kind of actions.
But what exactly is going to change in that regime? Because part of the problem, I would imagine, sits with the administration, where corruption is taking place there, bribery is taking place. And another part of it is the fact that you can go and just get a number plate, a license plate anywhere, so to speak. So how exactly are you going to deal with this?
Yeah, we've overhauled it completely. It's no longer the same. The human element is minimized. It's computer-based. It's also QR code-based, which simply means that the person that must register the car must the person that must own that car. We've also made arrangement with motor vehicle dealerships so that even when you buy, because an old car was once a new car, it was once properly registered. So we have to ensure that we don't avoid that. All new cars that are coming to Gauteng, registered in Gauteng, if you can get the base right, all the older cars, when you renew them, when you come to renew a license disc, we'll then put them up on top of that base. We need to track the car. If your car is stolen, government must not go to a third party or a tracking company and say, can you check this car for us? The state must be capable to track the car immediately on its own system and other things. So we have overhauled that system, I can assure you, Sakina. As soon as the minister, and I agree with the minister said, Gauteng, you can change it. But somebody can just go next door to Sosolbek in Free State and register the car, but drive it in Gauteng. So let's change this system countrywide. And on the basis of that, we've accepted, and the minister has put out the bill. As soon as it's promulgated, it's signed off, we'll have this new number plates across the country.
So where will they be printed, though?
Well, there is a central area where they will be printed. I can assure you, Sakina. That's why we are overhauling it. I don't want to disclose it.
So all these shops all over the show that are printing number plates right now will no longer be able to do that?
It will never be as freely as they're doing now, where somebody can just open a shop. They must be verified, authenticated, and they must keep records of the number plates that they've sold, which is something that they're not doing. And each and every car will have an inspectorate to check that it was a correct number plate that was produced. So we are putting up firm systems, Sakina. We can't allow that important element to be corrupted and to be compromised.
And then, as you say, it shouldn't have happened.
Indeed.
It has happened.
Indeed.
We'll see how it goes moving forward.
Indeed.
Then, of course, the CCTV cameras across the province.
It's an exciting project for us.
Why is it exciting? Because if you look at the city of Johannesburg, at some point, there was a big, brouhaha around the cameras that already exist in the city. There's a command center control room at Martindale at the JMPD headquarters. And yet, every day, it's like a movie. You can go onto social media and you'll see these cameras capturing images of crime, but it just goes on unabated. So why is this exciting?
Because if you escape the CBD, you'll not have any other camera. That's the difference. You can escape our camera in the CBD, but we'll catch you everywhere. You go to Randburg, you go to Tembisa, go to Avery Park, we've put up those cameras. We'll be in a position to track you. You might have committed the sin in the CBD, but we'll arrest you in Benoni or in Bedfordview on the basis of that thing. That's the exciting part of it. But two is linked to major databases. If you are on parole, you are on the database of correctional services, you are in the database of Home Affairs, you have applied for a visa, you have applied for whatever document that government has, your database, we'll be in a position to track you. Hence the number plate as well. The car that we are using, we're going to use the E90s to also be in a position. So it's a combination of things that we need to gather evidence so that we can nail you down.
Okay, I get how you're going to track the car. How are you going to track the individuals using
because
these
criminals appear at various databases. Even if you are not in the Home Affairs database, if you steal a phone in Midrand and you reappear in Randburg, we'll be in a position to know this is the same person that stole the phone because we store that database.
But it's a much broader problem, Premier, because, and let me give you a practical example. I had my phone snatched and stolen outside the SABC here. The same old modus operandi that everybody who has had their phone snatched, was applied. People got into a car, drove away. I managed to track my phone to a building in the Joburg CBD. The police were not interested to follow up, even though I said to them, I know where exactly this phone is. Went to 3 different police stations. Everybody refused. Each one tried to pass the buck to the next police station to follow up. And you know what happened? Went there with my son and on a clandestine mission, and it was perhaps not the wisest thing to do, but I was very curious to see what actually goes on there. There's a man standing there, police a few feet away. He's standing there with a bag full of cell phones, stolen cell phones. The police are there, they know about it. So it's a much bigger problem than just tracking the people who are doing the stealing.
I'm reluctant to call those people police.
But they wearing SAPS uniforms, so who are they?
I'm very reluctant to call them the police. They're not doing the policing work. So that is why we have been part of the process to select the new Provincial Commission of Police as the police. Somebody must share our vision, and that we are bringing various law enforcement agencies under one roof. We're bringing the traffic cops from all municipalities. We're bringing the private security companies. We're bringing the police. We're bringing all our wardens. We're also bringing specialized units, including the armies now in our province and other things, so that all these challenges can be tackled, so they don't rely on one component of the law enforcement agency. So that if you are failed by police, it means everything has failed. Yes, the police are the primary institution that must deal with this thing. It hurts me when you are putting this kind of resources and you say, but the police are not assisting. And that's the part I said to the leadership of the police in our province. It's a conduct that must not be appreciated. It's a conduct that must not be tolerated. We can't invest in these resources. I mean, we've given them helicopters, we've given them drones, we've given them panic buttons, we've given them a sophisticated state-of-the-art command center so that we can utilize these resources to protect Gauteng. Sakina, it's a fact. If you can't win the war against crime in Gauteng, you can't win the war against crime in our country. So you can't, therefore, when you put all these resources, CCTVs, cameras, you are putting all these helicopters, and the police and law enforcement agencies is just business as usual. We need to flush out those people out of the law enforcement agencies. And I would love to say, a premier, I spoke to police X, Y, Z, and they didn't do these things. And the commissioner of the police must account on those things. We can't just let go and say it's part of life, it's way of life. As long as I've registered this thing with the insurance will pay. Or policemen that just take statements in the police station for sake of filling the forms. It can't be. Police must track criminals. Police must ensure if goods were stolen, those particular goods must be retrieved. Police must ensure if somebody is murdered, that case must be investigated and use the latest technology to ensure that we investigate. We are investing in forensic. We are investing in motor vehicles for the police. I mean, our provincial government alone, Sakina, we have given 245 new motor vehicles to the SAPS because we value this aspect of ensuring that our province must be safe. Sakina, we can be the economic hub of the country. That title will go. If people can't invest here, if people can't bring their families here, if people feel not safe, every 7 o'clock in the evening, people are locking themselves in their own houses as if it's their own prison. When we need to pump the economy, it can't be. Where people are scared even of their own shadows. If there is one thing, Sakina, I must be honest, that if I have to say I failed, I will resign, is the fight against crime. I'm committed on that particular fight. And I'm prepared to put the resources that are needed there. And I need the leadership of all law enforcement agencies to follow me suit. If they're not ready, the door is open. They must leave.
So to that point, and as you said, you have capacitated, you've put the resources aside. So if you look at the murder rate, fourth quarter statistics.
1,800.
In 3 months.
Shocking.
In 3 months. You look at over the last month in the areas of Westbury down the road,
yeah.
Eldorado Park, Riverlea. Do you know how many people were killed?
Daily.
Premier?
I know.
More than 30 people.
I followed
in just those 3 areas. Now, one of the things I noted in listening to your State of the Province address, you didn't touch on the minority areas and what's happening there. You know, you spoke about the revitalization of townships. You started in Alexandra. You mentioned Pirima Petla. You went to Tembisa. Not once did you touch on areas where minorities reside. And it made me wonder, are you not concerned about what's happening in these areas with the drugs, the gangsterism, the murders that are occurring there?
Sakina, at the end of this month, I'll invite you. I've got 2,800 young people that are coming from those minority areas. Yeah, Westbury, Eldorado Park, Lands, that are now in the army base, being trained to go and assist us. Because we need people from those communities to police. So to accuse me and accuse this government that does not care about those minority groups is very unfortunate. We are putting lots of resources for it.
It was not an accusation. I was drawing from what you said.
No, I take your point. I mean, I can't mention all the townships. I mean, others are accusing me. I didn't mention Mamelodi. Others are accusing me. I didn't mention either Kagiso. But what I'm saying, Sakina, we are investing resources to ensure that our communities are safe. Me and you might be staying in suburbs where we've got private security firms, alarms, and many other things. Majority of our townships are unpoliced. People that have to go to the bus station, people that have to go to the taxi rank, people that have just to go to the sponsor shop, people that after entertainment, they are walking back home. They are mugged, killed, and purely because they come from those communities, no one cares. It can't be. It will never be. So the wardens that we are putting, the training camps that we are putting, we are welcoming the 2,800 at the end of this month. We are taking 3,000 again. Former military veterans who are highly skilled, highly trained, who can use various weapons. We are just harnessing their skills to come back to fight crime. Sakina, within the 20 months, one has been given the responsibility to be the premier of this province. We'll have not less than 15,000 law enforcement agencies across all our townships, across all our hostels and informal settlement. And we are doing that deliberately because that's where a majority of our people are, and that's where the statistics are. And I said when the Commissioner of Police was releasing the statistics, say 1,800 people died, I said it could have been worse if we didn't put up the systems that we are putting up. And we can't claim easy victory that they have indeed made a dent. It's going to take long, but the fight against crime in this province, and the fight to create jobs in this province, and the fight to protect young people against drugs in this province is a prerogative that I'm not prepared either to compromise or to even to delegate. I will do it personally if I have to, because it's a mission that if we fail, that's the end of our beautiful province.
And of course, much more to be said about that, but we don't have the luxury of time. I want to touch on e-tolls and what's going to happen with e-tolls. You personally, even before you became Premier, have been very vocal about the issue of e-tolls. So what is the status now? Is it history? 31st of March, that will be the end of it?
History. Let's talk about life beyond e-tolls.
No, yes, let's talk about life beyond the 31st of March.
Let me tell you today.
But what does that mean?
Today I signed all the relevant legislation that is needed. We've handed it over to national government. That was the last piece that was needed for this aspect to come to an end. Our technical team has just finalized very important processes. So I can assure you from the 1st of April, you'll not hear the beep that you normally hear when you pass there. And you'll not be receiving bills and you'll not be charged for e-tolls. It's a costly decision, I must be honest. I'm one person that believes in the user pay principle. You can't tax those that are not using the services for those that are using the services. It's unfortunate, purely because on the basis that people feel that the model was not user-friendly, there was no consultation and all other things. So we have to just count our losses and proceed with life. But we've taken that decision. It is going to cost us almost 12 billion as a province. As I said last night, I finally signed the relevant papers for us to.
And that's the point. Ultimately, it doesn't just go away. Someone's going to pay for it in the end.
It's a costly decision. You have to. But we have to take that decision, Sakina. Let me tell you why. The principal amount is 47 billion. That we owe from people that have borrowed money when we're preparing for 2010 World Cup to expand the road, to change the intersection of Allendale. Those that were staying in Midrand will tell you Allendale was a nightmare, main lane intersection, Soweto, Nazareth intersection. So we borrowed 47 billion and people boycotted payments. Because people were boycotting payments, the government was paying this interest on loans. And it was, by last year, we paid almost 21 billion. On interest alone. So the principal amount is waiting that 47, you're paying interest of 21 million. Doesn't make sense. And that is why when we entered the space, so let's buy the bullet, get 47 billion, pay these people, and then terminate this. We'll find a way of raising revenue to ensure that we start. But you can't have a principal amount that we're paying interest and the principal amount is staying there because nothing is happening. Life is continuing. We think is correct. It's not.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I say those e-tolls are history. And I'm glad that we've signed the final paperwork last night. And come the end of this month, hopefully we'll be in a position to have a ceremony with the national ministers and switch off these countries and focus on using them to fight crime.
Final point, illegal mining, zama-zamas, and how they've just become a scourge to communities around the areas where they operate. What is the plan?
Wow, Sakina, I've made meaningful progress there. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our president for listening and also for listening to our plea, and also to thank the minister responsible for the army. Sakina, we've got a strong army that has invaded. They've gone downstairs. I don't want to expose the work that they've done. but they've done work that I'm relieved as the Premier of this particular province. It's still ongoing operation. We said we're not going to make an announcement about the work and what they're doing until they've concluded the task. But where I am, I'm quite relieved that that lawlessness and brutality that we experience from Zamazamas, we can see an end of it. And I want to thank the army and those that are here, that are sacrificing to assist and to protect the citizens of Gauteng. So I'm quite relieved. Now there is proper action. I'm not sure you know a dance are called Skomota. So down there are people that are dancing Skomota dance because the army is treating them the way they're supposed to. You can't come here illegally in our country, come with heavy weapons and do this economic sabotage without being tracked and traced and be deported where we are. We'll release the figures at an appropriate stage, but a Skomota dance is taking place downstairs there.
And of course, beyond that, who's buying?
Exactly. No, we've launched that three-pronged, and the National Minister of Police is keen on that one. We are tracing it even for people that are outside our country that are buying this illegal mining. We want to reposition it for South Africans. These are our facilities, these are our mines, but we can't allow people that are not documented, unknown, heavily armed to come here and do what they're doing. So what the army is doing now is a major relief, but we have to plan beyond that because if you don't do that, it will reoccur. But we are also pleading with the Minister of Energy that these unused mines must be donated to our communities who want to build houses, build sporting facilities, and many other things, because lack of activities in those areas will attract back the people that are doing this illegal work.
We have a minute. I want to talk about investment, which is, of course, a big one to grow the economy, to make that dent into the unemployment figures in the province. So in a minute or less, what is the plan?
Exciting, Sakina. Exciting. Actually, we've just signed an agreement yesterday with Transnet. They're building a new pipeline here that will create thousands and thousands of jobs. But besides Sakina, our approach in Gauteng, and I know I'm going to be accused by other political parties of electioneering. Sakina, we are attracting all these companies that are creating jobs, but the skills base is too low. So until you raise the skill base, what we are trying to do is not going to match. So we are excited that from the 6th of May, you'll see the massive, the biggest skills development program. Those that wants to be welders, plumbers, electricians, we are taking them back to school. Those that are unemployed in the township, and when they're still being trained, we are providing them with a stipend that will ensure that they survive. So we are looking for hundreds and thousands of young people or older people that wants to go back to school to be retrained, because in the absence of a skill base, no matter how many jobs you create, people won't be attracted to those jobs because they don't qualify. So it's an exciting moment for Gauteng, and wait for the 6th of April, Sakina. You will feel this building shaking with the number of people that we are going to train and we are going to take to create opportunities for them.
Of course, that's not too far away, and we will definitely be there to bring all of that to you. But thank you so much. The Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, talking to us about the state of Gauteng province.